Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today, we're talking about the future of modifying cars. This is episode 152 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. All right, so you guys got me in the car today. I'm headed home after a long and hot day of work, and I've been really thinking a lot about this topic and what is it going to look like when we try to modify our cars over the next, well, frankly, year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And it's a super interesting topic because when I started in the industry back in 03 or 2 or something like that, cars were very different than they are today, and technology's improving at such a rapid pace that it's become kind of a cool concept and this really cool idea to talk about. It used to be when you wanted to modify a car, you would either put boost to it, you would do cams, exhaust, whatever, depending on what kind of car it was, and that all still can be applicable. But then we sort of moved into the ECM tuning world, which is a world that is incredibly cool. The newest gen Volkswagen Audis are getting such crazy horsepower and torque numbers just from software that, I think if I bought a Mark 7 GTI, I might keep it for a week or two just to become accustomed to the car, and then immediately I would take it and put a tune on it. So that's one aspect that I want to talk about. The other one I actually find almost more interesting, and that's changing parts on their cars, or your cars, or my cars. So one of the things, a lot of you guys have probably already heard this, but one of the things that really got me into the auto industry and into cars was car radios and upgrading car audios. My first car was a Jeep. It didn't even come with a radio. And then it had a tape deck, then a CD player, then a sub and amps, and changed the speakers and everything. So that was one of the things that really got me hooked into cars. Well, a situation came up, a week or two ago, where a customer bought a certain Jetta or Golf, I think it was a Golf, and they wanted to add XM radio, but they didn't want to have like the piggyback thing, right, that mounts on your dash or in your ashtray or whatever. They wanted to add an aftermarket radio. So our car audio guy, gets a radio and he comes in to install it, and this guy's razor sharp and an awesome dude. He's the one that did the audio video stuff in my garage in the shop, right? And we're talking about it. I'm like, dude, you're not going to be able to put a radio in that car, just like, a Pioneer or an Alpine or whatever. He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, that's a module in the car. It's not like this car where the radio is the radio. This is a customer interface for things on the vehicle. It's for maintenance. It's got all these other features, suspension, the dynamic suspension and the power steering and all that stuff, like on the GTIs, that's all part of or interface through the radio. You can't just jam a Pioneer in it and be fine. The Touareg, another really good example. To put the wiper in service position, the windshield wipers in service position, that's done through the radio. He's like, man, I was a little concerned, but I thought we'd be okay. So it turns out he ended up having to put the piggyback SAT module in it. Well, as we go forward, right, you're not going to be able to just jam a new head unit in it. I can do that in this car. This car's a 2005. That's not a big deal. But as we develop these cars into having the module be integrated and be a controller of the vehicle, that's not going to happen. So what tends to happen is companies design add-ons. They design piggyback systems that change what's going on in the head unit or pull the signals that it's looking for out of the head unit and simply add on to it. And I think that's really, in the car audio world, going to be where we see some of the coolest things happening, is with people, hacking software or rewriting software in order to make things work in a different manner. When we take an engine ECM, we go in and we write new files to it to change, fuel, to change air temp interpretation, to make all these modifications where we're getting 40, 50, 60 horsepower. I really think we might see the same kind of thing in the car audio world. And when I say in the car audio world, I'm talking about the head unit, the interface to the customer, right? This goes well beyond audio. Again, this is where we get maintenance information, where we, on the GTIs, some of the GTIs, we have performance monitors. All that stuff's the radio's capable of doing. I mean, it's a computer, right? It's capable of doing a whole lot more than it really can do. I think we're going to see a cool market for add-on systems and piggyback systems, and I'm a little uncomfortable calling it hack software because I don't think these guys are hacking it in the terms of what I think of as a hack, which is a technician or anybody really doing shoddy repairs on a car. I'm talking about like a computer hacker where they're breaking the code of the software and changing it to do what they want it to do. So I think we're going to see a lot in that space where everything's going to look exactly the same. It's all going to look factory, but you're going to have a module that maybe gets plugged in or plug and play even for the guys that are going to do it right. And now we have all these other options. Think of like jailbreaking your iPhone or rooting an Android phone. It's going to be more like that, in my opinion. And frankly, I'm excited about that. I love the idea of having a car appear to be stock, but not. One of the main reasons I haven't installed the other radio in this Passat is I really like how the factory radio looks. And aftermarket radios, there's a ton out there. A lot of them are, flat screen and really cool, full picture display. Then you have the crap that is blue flashing lights and, makes noises when you shut it off and turn it on. And all that stuff does to me is scream, right? Scream, hey, steal me. I am begging for someone to break into your car and rip me out of the dash. And having had a number of cars broken into, that feeling sucks. So I don't want to do anything to add to the potential for a car to get stolen. So in that world, in the module world, and even in beyond radios, in ECMs, TCMs, door lock modules, these are all smart components, convenience modules. Think about what we can do with VACCOM, not so much on this generation car, but on the newer generation cars. We can go in, we can tell the car, hey, when you hold down the unlock button for your remote, roll the windows down. And then sure enough, the windows will come down. Or if it has a rain light sensor, car, if you see it raining, roll my windows up for me. We can already do so much of these things, and we're not even hacking it, right? At our level, the kind of the consumer, enthusiast, professional level, we're just going in and changing the information that's already there. I'm talking about straight rewriting this information to make it do the things that we want to do. And it's such a cool space, it's such a cool market that if I had, let's say, a new Touareg and I wanted to add some component to the interface, I'd pay $500 for that if it was something I really wanted, $600, whatever. If it gave me the ability to keep all of the stuff that the car can do now, in addition to giving me what I'm looking for extra. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I think we're still going to see a lot of the really common stuff that people do, right? Exhaust, intake, wheels, brake upgrades, suspension modifications. Hopefully, as we go on, we sort of raise the bar on the quality of some of this stuff, but there's always going to be that lowest end level, entry level type modifications, like really inexpensive exhausts or really inexpensive intakes and suspension upgrades. But the part that I'm really excited about is the computer shift, right? The computer changing. To me, we're seeing it very clearly in ECMs and how that's going to develop forward throughout the entire vehicle. I think we have to be careful, though, because as we're moving into this space where we as owners, we as enthusiasts, we own our vehicle and we feel like if it's inside of this car, it belongs to me. Manufacturers, on the other hand, are moving the opposite way. They're saying, you own the vehicle, but we own the technology. We own the software. It's ours. And to their point, I think there's validity to that because they're the ones that have to go through the rigmarole and the hoops and the government testing, right, the Volkswagen diesel thing, in order to get that car on the road. To me, and when something goes wrong, it's their fault. If I change something in my brakes system, say, and modify my ABS to function differently, even though I did it, the manufacturer is going to be the one held responsible for it because there shouldn't be a way to do it, right? That's how it's going to be seen in court. Or I'll play ignorant and say, well, there was no warning for me not to change these brake components or these this braking software so it's not really my fault. So there's that side of it where I actually kind of agree with the manufacturer from an accountability and a liability standpoint. Truthfully, though, I feel like once I pay for this car, it's mine and I should be able to do whatever I want with it, and no one can say anything. Of course, there's laws that we got to follow too when we put our vehicle on the street. So that's why some of what we do, and even some of the things on the GTI you guys are going to find, are going to be for off-road use only. So it should be an interesting shift, or more of a continuation of the shift, to see what happens when we have really sharp computer people competing with really sharp computer people in the car manufacturer companies to see who's going to win. And, you know, I've always been of the mindset of, like, the hacker always is just one step ahead, right? The criminal's usually one step ahead of the security. And I think that's going to be an interesting space and fun to follow, fun to watch. Hopefully we get to a point with, especially with the manufacturers, where there can be some sort of agreement. Heck, manufacturers, why don't you guys do it, right? Let us buy it from you. Let us buy packs for our radio to unlock it and let us do things. You know, the radio should be capable of GPS as far as technology in the radio. All we'll have to do is buy a GPS antenna, maybe buy a download from the dealership, and in 15 minutes of a software upgrade or a firmware upgrade, now we have full navigation capability. You know, there's no reason why I can't take my phone and mirror it to my radio and make my phone and my radio be the exact same unit. There's some of that out there with CarPlay and Android Connect and MirrorLink, but I'm talking like flawlessly working with it. You know, my phone being the integrated part of my vehicle as well. So it should be a really interesting time, I think, over the next 5 years, where we see this elevation of computer programming and computer hacking of our vehicles, where we make it do cool stuff. Think about a new vehicle with electronic steering, with lane departure warning, with collision avoidance, with full autonomous braking, adaptive cruise, all these systems. I mean, there's really not many reasons why we couldn't take that car and with some software changes, make it an autonomous vehicle. I mean, hell, we're really close to being there. Some of the new Audis have a feature where it's not that it keeps you from drifting out of the lane, it keeps you centered in the lane. And that's some trippy stuff if you've never driven a car that'll do that. But we're already so far advanced, we're so far ahead that, you know, I'm worried about hackers tweaking that kind of stuff, because I don't feel like they're going to put the testing, the full testing into it like a manufacturer is going to have to do to even get the car on the road. I worry that it's going to be some guy in his garage going, yeah, I know how to do this, boop, boop, beep, boop, and trying to change stuff, and now we have a vehicle that's not safe. So I'm apprehensive and nervous about that, but I'm really excited on the other side. I'm excited to see what can happen when someone decides, I'm going to take this radio, or it's, again, not really a radio anymore, this customer interface module, I'm going to hack it and I'm going to add some cool stuff to it or whatever. And I think that's going to be neat, and I'm really excited about it. I caution some people about modifying things that, one, they don't know what they're doing, and two, things that can be related to safety especially. Emissions become a concern as well, but far less than safety concerns. With that in mind, I have a question for you guys. Question of the day. What do you think is going to be the most interesting change in vehicle modification in the next 5 years? All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, you know what to do. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and of course on Snapchat. All right, guys, hey, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Wonder how many times I've pushed GoPro buttons it's going to take for me to get it to stop.